Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a new video on my YouTube channel, Anton GF. My name is Anton Garcia Fernandez, and I am the North American co-editor of Bing Magazine, the journal of the International Club Crosby. I'm coming to you, as usual, from Jackson in the state of Tennessee, here in the United States of America. And today I want to share with you, watching out there, a couple of items that I recently received that were in my mailbox when I opened it a few weeks, actually in one of the cases a couple of days ago, and that I think might be interesting. One of the items has to do with Bing Crosby, and the other one has to do with another great crooner of the golden age of American pop music, Mr. Perry Como. And I'm going to start with the one that I received earlier, probably towards the end of December last year, and it comes from fellow ICC member, my friend Martin McQuaid, out in Brooklyn, New York. And it's this catalog of the auction entitled Swinging on a Star, the Private Collection of Kathryn and Bing Crosby. This is an auction that took place at Sotheby's back in December 2025, and it was an auction of material, of items that belonged to both Bing Crosby and his second wife, Kathryn Grant. That is Kathryn Crosby. The two of them are there on the cover of this small but very interesting catalog that includes some of the items that were auctioned off. The auction took place on December 18th, 2025 at 10 a.m., but there was an exhibition before that lasted between December 13th and December 17th. And it says inside, there's a little bit of a description of this auction, talking a little bit about Bing Crosby and Kathryn Crosby. There they are with their kids in that picture. And it says that the sale and exhibition is organized in 5 thematic chapters highlighting the breadth of the Crosby collection. When Irish Eyes Are Smiling, the passions and pursuits of Bing Crosby. Timeless Glamour, Kathryn Crosby's fashion and accessories. Art and Legacy, Impressionist and 19th century paintings. Home on the Range, Western paintings. A Love Story in Fabergé, Living with Style, and Icons of a Golden Era. So those are 5 different parts of this auction. For example, When Irish Eyes Are Smiling, one of the things that you can see there is that hat that Bing Crosby wore when he was sitting for that painting. There's also some trophies having to do with horse racing. Here's a picture of Bing Crosby taking a break from golfing. Timeless Glamour has to do with, that's a beautiful picture of Kathryn, some of her outfits and accessories, as you can see right there. Art and Legacy includes paintings, mostly 19th century and impressionistic paintings that were owned by Bing and Kathryn. A little bit of information there about these paintings. Home on the Range, title of a song that Bing recorded. There he is. That's a drawing of Bing riding a horse in cowboy attire, and some other paintings that have to do with the Western landscape. And then A Love Story in Fabergé, some Fabergé items as well, jewels and jewelry boxes and things like that. And then Living with Style, there's Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby singing Well Did You Ever, What a Swell Party This Is, from High Society. Some glassware, some furniture, really beautiful furniture there that belonged to Bing and Kathryn. Nice pictures in color, and then icons of a golden era. There's some gold records, and there's that beautiful piano right there. It is the grand piano made for the English market in 1897, which was used in the 1956 film High Society, starring Bing Crosby, Grace Kelly, and Frank Sinatra, and also Louis Armstrong. And there's also some sheet music, gold records. We also have film scripts, Robin and the Seven Hoods, for example. That picture of Bing Crosby and Kathryn right there from a Christmas special, most likely. No, The Road to Zanzibar. No, The Road to Zanzibar is the pith helmet that he wore. And there's a picture there of Bing Crosby and Kathryn together. Looks like from a TV show, one of those TV specials. More items here at the end. And a nice picture to finish on the back cover of this small, not very thick, but definitely interesting collector's item, which is this catalog of the auction at Sotheby's, Swinging on a Star. And I know that some of my fellow ICC members, Pantelis Kavouras, for example, in Greece, and Jason Lydiard in the United Kingdom, did bid on some of these items and even got a couple of them. So this is a good souvenir from the auction, Swinging on a Star, the private collection of Kathryn and Bing Crosby. Thank you to Martin McQuaid for mailing this to me. And I have a copy, second copy, that I'm going to mail to my friend and fellow co-editor of Bing Magazine, Malcolm McFarlane, in a couple of weeks, because as I have heard, he is in the high seas right now on a cruise. So I'm going to wait until he returns home to the UK to send him that catalog. So I have 2 copies of it. And the second item that I wanted to let you know about is a new book that just came out about Perry Como, called Magic Moments, The Perry Como Story, by Matthew Long, who is British. And if you have been following the channel, you probably know Matthew already, because a few weeks ago I had the pleasure of chatting with him, and we talked about Perry Como for an episode of the Jazz Flashes podcast, in which we talked about this book and the figure and the career of Perry Como. Matthew Long is a music historian, producer, and vocalist with a specialist knowledge of 20th century popular music. He has performed in concert throughout England and produced programs heard on BBC Radio. In 2005, he founded the Perry Como Appreciation Society and has since led and contributed to many projects concerning the Perry Como legacy. And this is one of them, this book, which is a great introduction to the Perry Como story, and not just his life, but more importantly, in my opinion, because I'm always more interested in this, his music. And recently, I had the chance to read and review this book in the latest issue of Bing Magazine, the one for spring 2026. That's issue number 202. And if you go to page 25, you will see that in the Books and Bing section, I wrote a brief review of this book by Matthew Long about Perry Como. It's a book that has been published by Bloomsbury Publishing. It has 280 pages, and 25 black and white illustrations. And in the review, I mentioned that there are not enough books about classic pop vocalists of the golden era of the Great American Songbook published every year these days, least of all by an academic publisher like Bloomsbury Publishing. So this is really very good news that Matthew Long has written this book and that Bloomsbury has published it. There's another book about Perry Como that Ken Crosland and Malcolm McFarland wrote years ago, which is a fantastic book as well. And this is very good. It comes to complement that earlier book, and in many ways it owes quite a bit to that previous book by Malcolm McFarland and Ken Crosland. And here, Matthew Long, what he does is he painstakingly traces Perry Como's life and career from his early years as a barber through his debut as a band singer with the Ted Weems Orchestra and on to his enormous success on records, radio, and television. Matthew Long works chronologically, and in that way we can understand the story of Perry Como and the bearing that his life had on his music, on his professional decisions, and it is very interesting to see how he rose from records and radio to become one of the pioneering voices and faces on television. This is very interesting to me. And I am really interested also in the fact that Matthew Long spends a lot of time in this book discussing Perry Como's discography and his music and his recordings. Matthew Long underscores in this book the singer's versatility, his adaptability, which actually helped turn Perry Como into a presence that was pretty much everywhere, first on radio and later especially on television. Like Frank Sinatra, like Dick Haymes, for example, Perry Como came out of the big band era and followed in the footsteps of an earlier generation of singers, names like that of Al Jolson, Russ Columbo, and of course also Bing Crosby, who in the 1920s and 30s helped pave the way for what was to come in popular music from the 1940s onwards. Of course, Matthew Long recognizes the influence that Bing Crosby had on Perry Como, which is particularly evident on his earlier recordings before he perfected a recognizable style of his own. But that influence of Bing Crosby on Perry Como did not completely vanish as years and decades went by. Now, this is not to say that Perry Como was a Bing Crosby imitator, of course not. But by using elements that he heard in the work of earlier vocalists, like, for example, Bing Crosby, he succeeded in creating something different and entirely personal that appealed to a variety of listeners. And Matthew Long delves into that in this book. And what we have here is a thoroughly researched, really well written, clearly written, concisely written, and most importantly, a text that is devoid of any academic affectation. Yes, this was written in a way that any reader can understand. It's written in a very accessible way, even though it was published by an academic publisher like Bloomsbury. It's a very accessible not really totally academic book. And moreover, all the chapters end with what I would describe as a type of soundtrack, a selection of some of the best tunes that Perry Como recorded in the years covered in each chapter. So we have, for example, chapter 4, which is called Precisely Magic Moments. That was one of the big hits that Perry Como had in the 1950s. The chapter covers that part of his career, the second part of the 1950s, between 1955 and 1959, and then there is a list, very detailed list of some of the best recordings that Perry Como made during that part of his career. You know, his version of Somebody Loves Me by George Gershwin. They Can't Take That Away From Me, also from the Gershwins. Catch a Falling Star, Jukebox Baby, Love Letters, his version of a song that for me is always associated with Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters, which is Accentuate the Positive, and so on. So this happens at the end of each chapter, so one can read the chapter and then delve into all these selections of different songs that Perry Como recorded. And this is an invitation, not just to learn about Perry Como's life and career, but also to listen to his music. And to me, that is very important. And that turns Magic Moments, the Perry Como story, into not just a very readable introduction to Perry Como's life and career, but also an invitation to his music. And to me, that is really important. And I commend Matthew Long for doing that. And I also thank Matthew for having guested on the Jazz Flashes podcast and for having sent me a copy of his book, which is really recommendable. If you are interested in the music of Perry Como, in the figure of Perry Como, this is a very good introduction, and so is the book that Malcolm and Ken wrote a few years ago, which I also have, but I haven't really found it to show to the camera today because I think it's in a box since I recently moved and I still have not unboxed everything. But in any case, here's a book that I will definitely recommend if you're interested in the music of Perry Como. Matthew Long's Magic Moments, just published very recently by Bloomsbury Publishing. And those are the two items that I wanted to share with you. This catalog of the Swinging on a Star auction at Sotheby's and Matthew Long's Magic Moments, the Perry Como story. This is Anton Garcia Fernandez thanking you for being out there and watching these videos and signing off until the very next time. Thank you and see you again real soon.